Hello everyone. Um, so in this video, I'll try to explain what is robotic process automation and how it differs from conventional automation. To understand this better, let us take an example of autonomous cars. The key objective of this transformational project is to get the cars drive by itself with no compromise towards security. And these cars can take you anywhere as long as there is a street or a road. To achieve this, there are two approaches. One is the conventional approach. This approach needs to change all streets, roads to a modern infrastructure. Obviously, this is time consuming and costly task to complete. Next is communication. Whatever is there in the streets should be able to communicate with each other and at reasonably fast speeds as well. This can be achieved by enabling everything with IoT. And in order to achieve that, our internet services and communication devices have to be uplifted. This adds more cost and time to the project. And then the old cars also needs to be replaced as they cannot be upgraded and hence replaced with modern cars. Now let's see what are the advantages of such an approach. Such approach of automation is 100% accurate when completed. This also brings in long-term benefits. As for this example, you get an upgraded infrastructure, better and safer roads, improved connectivity as they are the byproduct. And of course, this brings in efficiency in the process. By now, we are aware of this approach definitely cannot be completed in months. It will take years if every car in the globe has to be autonomous. And yes, it will be expensive and intrusive. By intrusive, I mean this approach will demand changes in the adjoining infrastructure as well. This approach is sometimes referred to as BPM in IT, and it is still relevant and important in IT and will continue to be. Now, let's take another approach where we fit a robot in the car. The job of the robot is to learn from the driver's behavior and characteristics of driving. For example, when does the driver apply brakes and at what speed? What triggers this action? The robot, after some period of learning and training, understands that the driver applies the brake softly when he sees a red light, slows down sign and curves. And each time he does that, he does it differently for each of the triggers. Based on this principle, in the car, the robot learns how to drive. This approach, although seems time consuming, taking into account the time the robot takes time to train, but at least is 10 times faster than the approach we discussed earlier. Remember, Google uses the same technology for their autonomous cars. And some test now owners as well claim that their car is becoming more and personal as it gets to know them. Surprisingly, a car owned by a left-handed driver behaves different from a right-handed owner. This is because the robot learns from the patterns of its owner. However, this approach has its own disadvantages. Its accuracy is never as good as the previous approach. If not implemented properly, it can cause delays and is unable to provide the appropriate results. To summarize, this approach is called as robotic process automation, where a software robot learns human behavior and actions and performs those activities. And when we aid RPA with artificial intelligence and machine learning, we call it as smart RPA. Now, the big question, does it mean RPA is better than business process automation? The answer to the question depends on what you want to achieve. Each of them has their own pros and cons, which needs to be evaluated. Later, we will talk about when and why not to use RPA. Until now, we came to know what is RPA and what is its benefits. Next, let's take an example that almost many enterprises have. The lady on your screen is Kathy. She is employed with ABC Corporation in the finance department. She manages the account payable process for the organization. One of her key responsibilities is to check the invoices that she receives in the company's finance department mailbox. In this case, she has received an email from one of the vendors. She has to validate the information for accuracy and look for any inconsistencies. If all is well, then she takes the input from the invoice in a prescribed Excel file format. She needs it for her future reference. Once that is done, she opens the company's ERP portal and enters the detail in the portal. Once the information is entered in the company's finance system, she updates her Excel file and sends an email to the vendor with her details. But today is not a good day for Kathy. This is the financial year end, and most of the vendors delayed their invoices, and she has more than 300 invoices pending. All of them needs to be uploaded to the finance portal in 3 days time. She knows that if each takes 10 minutes, 300 invoices will take her minimum 50 hours to do this. And she cannot afford any mistakes. Moreover, she has a customer interaction at 4 p.m. today. But she has a trick down her sleeve. ABC Corporation has provided her a digital assistant. The digital assistant can perform this activity for her. So, she summons the robot residing on her laptop. As you can see in her screen, the robot has started processing the information, although you cannot see it taken up in the first email from the mailbox. The robot is also validating those information in the background. It then opens up the company's financial portal and starts entering the details. What you see in her screen are the actions performed by the payable robot. It navigates through the pages, fills in data, and does auto correction as well, just like a human would do. In the end, it marks the email as read, sends out an email to the vendor, and saves the attachment and the Excel file. Well, this made Kathy very happy. While her robot is processing the invoices, she connects with the client on time. She enjoys client interactions and wishes to move to another challenging role from her office. So, to summarize, you saw how a robotic assistant can make your life easier and better day in and day out. And note that this process also works for any new employee of ABC Corporation. To develop this solution, ABC Corporation has spent only a couple of weeks of development time, and now it saves hundreds of hours for the finance department. And now many employees like Kathy can focus on business and customer instead of doing mundane tasks. I hope you got some clarity on RPA and how it makes our life easier. But it is only great if it is done well. This means how you design your journey, how you reuse every line of the RPA code will determine your success. You don't need to reinvent the wheel, just need to add more features to it. Now, let us dive a little bit into how we should design our RPA journey. As RPA is not a fancy robot sitting in a desk and doing your job, if you look at the hardware, the only thing you can see is something similar to like this. And this robot typically resides in your laptop, PC, and servers. When they are summoned, they execute a process. In order to execute the process, the robot needs multiple bots or microbots to work together and perform the task. So, to understand what is a bot, we are going to take an example from our IT department. The IT department of ABC Corporation has a need to automate disk space issues across its servers, be it Linux, Windows, or Mac. In order to achieve this, ABC Corporation has built many bots to build a bot farm. Now, note that each of those bots in the farm does a specific task repeatedly again and again without any errors. For example, the Get OS bot's job is to find the OS of the appliance, be it network, mobile, PC, laptop, or a server. ABC Corporation has also provided the bot farm access to a CMDB, a set of business rules, added cognitive capability using Watson, TensorFlow, Abby, and we will talk about those things in our later videos. Let's get back to the flow now. To perform this automation, we will need to first check for disk space and then triage for which the files needs to be deleted or archived. Finally, it fixes the disk space issue. So, to summarize, a bot is a small piece of code which does the same task again and again with the same objective. A robot is something that resides in your application who commands and manages the activities of the bots. And the last component is the orchestrator, which interacts with other components to execute the business process. Now that we looked into this process, if your organization implements similar process, you can automate the disk space correction once and forever. You just need to change the business rules to modify the functionality, and it will work for any number of appliances. Thank you for watching this video. Hope you had a good time. Until then, goodbye.